So the constant noise in the background makes it pretty impossible to get anything done. So listening to music, I guess that I would have chosen it. I don't always get the choice, do I? Trying to make sure I can watch my live video. I guess I should probably do it this way. Alright, that'll allow me to show actual evidence. So I'll play on this. This is a guy who made an account to harass me today, calling himself Larry Smith. So here we got this guy calling himself Larry Smith. No account, no posts. Once made a respond, calls himself Larry Smith. Right? Says no account. Oh, come on, focus. Says new account on Facebook. You're not friends on Facebook. Let's see what he typed. There's got to be a way to do this. Why do you make an account to harass me? So you want to send me a friend request. He typed harass you. I typed new accounts with nothing on them from strangers. Yeah, generally turns out to be bullies or scammers. What do you want? And he typed, do you want a free Walmart card? I'm poor in India. I'm Rampur. I typed, are you fucking kidding me? Come on. No, I don't want a goddamn Walmart card. Go the fuck away. He typed, okay, I will contact you again shortly. I typed, no you won't. He typed, yes I will, autistic retard. Go tend the rabbits. There it goes. That's right. So here I'm sorry that it doesn't show well that way. I'm doing the best I can with the resources I have to hand. A more important one, this one's from Mr. Reed. He was talking to me about helping me once before over at the Tillamook Sporting Goods. So today when he was talking to me, I spoke with him about it again. 714. Which is very difficult. I'm not allowed there. I'm allowed this bad. That makes sense. Alright, here we go. I should have been Mr. Reed. Alright, is this the one at Seventh-day Adventist Church? Yep. Alright, well, I'm not allowed there, but if you go there, you can drop me off just before we get on the property, and then you can pick me up when you get off. Oh, what do you need to get done? This late in the day, it's difficult to get anything done. Tell somebody my story that'll listen to understand instead of talking over me, which is very difficult. Alright. You might be able to do that, but I should let you get food. However, if you drop me off just off the property, that's cool. Well, I told on some bad people there. Yeah, like, they're not necessarily bad people, but what they did to me was bad. That makes sense? Yeah. Well, I don't really believe in actual evil people. Sorry, go ahead. So, I don't know, man, like, how do I say this? So, nepotism within society is normal. It's like, it's one of the traits of human society, man. Like, it's just a community as it goes. Its roots from ties from predecessors. So, are we allowed to smoke cigarettes? Yeah, go for it. Would you like one? No, I'm good. So he's going to try to make it a conversation about philosophy.
which is very complicated. And by the way, it took about 2 hours of my day to go with him.
Actually, I got some food to hold me off. Where do you need it? Where do you need it?
His opinions are super important.
So you should be able to get food. We're not going to be able to actually turn anything in today just because
He's gonna pull over and help.
Basically got to show you what's going on so
but
that
he had to
we don't get
run
talked
over to his car first and park. So
and I can go over to Lily and A Good Speed Park while you're over there. I'm allowed on the Seventh-day Adventist Church property, just not the
but he was in a hurry because he wanted to
Herald
go to the
Center.
fruit bank.
So church property, I can go across the street.
I'll grab some food on Thursday.
Alright, where do I ash?
Oh, just hash out the window.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'll just grab some dinner over.
I guess the easiest way to explain it would be to write a checklist, and then as I explain it, any evidence that you have seen or believe, put a check next to it, and anything that you want to see the evidence of, ask me, and I'll show you, and you can put next to it.
Alright.
Because otherwise, people forget a lot, and also over time they forget a lot. And also, when I have panic attacks, I tend to do desperate shit. Not hateful shit or evil shit, but desperate shit.
Well, the thing is, if you're being gang stalked and you're being watched 24/7, like these episodes of mania or what you call panic attacks, in my experience, they're most likely due to external variables, like people trying to trigger you. Or it's like
I record them trying to trigger me. That's where I have a winning court case.
Yeah.
I just need somebody to verify that I'm telling the truth by looking at the evidence and going, yep, that's real.
It's not going to help.
It actually does, and that's one of the things that through all of my studies, because I've been studying case law as well, and I've been studying as far as witness statements go. When it comes to a homeless person, police are almost not likely at all to take a witness statement from a homeless person. If they do, it's a couple little notes that they write down, but for the most part, they assume that we're all mentally ill or on drugs, and therefore are not credible.
No, it's they don't assume, in my opinion, you're jumping to the conclusion that
No, I recorded it.
That the police officers or law enforcement or the system is unaware of what the other departments of the system are doing.
No, I am aware that they are aware of what the other departments are doing.
Yes.
They're also lying to me about not knowing that. And that's what I've got recorded is the runaround.
It's by design.
I'm well aware. And that's the point of what I've been working on and learning about is how you win. And the way that people who are poor win is by working together. The way that they work together, except by not breaking the law. And if there is somebody who has to break the law, it has to be out of necessity, which means you have to be able to prove that somebody's life was in immediate danger and or immediate danger of risk of property damage or life and limb. And all of those are present.
You want to go to Rockaway?
For how long?
Check out the beach. I don't know. I ain't gonna be back until the afternoon. Probably just go over there for like 30 minutes at the beach and come back. You know?
Would I be allowed to tell you my story on the way?
Yeah, dude.
Totally.
When's the last time you saw the ocean?
I took a leak in it about 7 months ago.
Alright, cool. Sean, you seem very foolhardy and
very much so. Thank you.
I'm having trouble trying to articulate my thoughts because it's a big subject for me. Because just like you, I am being pursued and what I've learned is that it's not just one faction. There's multiple factions, and if you've survived this long, then there's people that believe in you and believe in what you believe in, but they're also aware of the factions that are trying to destroy you or keep you under control. And if they have enough resources, ingenuity, and know-how on how to keep themselves out off the radar or keep themselves from being targeted by these factions that are against you, they're more capable than you. And if they're being hesitant on approaching these factions directly, then I don't know. It would be wise.
It's all stuff that I have recorded, and
I understand.
That's the factor there.
But let me just roll up a cigarette. I understand that you have it on recording. It's just that, how do you bring it to a court if the courts are part of it? How do you find it? How do you find a lawyer that'll work with you honestly?
And see, this is the thing, is that this is why people don't have anyone to work with them, is because everyone is always trying to say, well, it's not going to work, or trying to insinuate that it's not going to work. It's a matter of working together.
Hold on, let me roll the cigarette.
Like I said, it's a matter of working together. I was slipping my foot in the door.
I think what you're trying to do is, or I don't know, the most appropriate. To get the effect that you want, you would have to try to find a way to spread your information and have it seen.
I have it. It's my YouTube channel, but also other people
you have to
getting involved in caring. Witnesses speaking up.
It's how are you going to publicize it?
It's already publicized. You have no idea how big the Natalie Bollinger story is.
No, I don't.
I can show you. Here, let me stop this right here and I'll show you.
What a cute puppy! You got two of them! You're lucky. I'd come over there and slobber you back. I swear to dog I would. Thanks, you.
Oh, I guess that's the beginning of it. Oh, Jesus, fuck. I got a problem. So what we're going to do, now that it's a minute and a half into that video, we'll start playing the longer one.
It's more like they don't want your oppressor to oppress them the same way they're oppressing you.
So we're talking in generalities instead of focusing on the abuse. And that's all he wants to do is generalities, generalize, and assume, impress opinions.
In my opinion, you're failing to see that people are smarter than you would give them credit for, and even though they are cowardly, it's more a thing of survival. Are they willing to sacrifice their position and their comfortable position in the community?
And here's the thing: is that you're now arguing the morality of it, and the moral ground. Yes, this is all stuff that I've been enduring for 7 years. So it's not something that I haven't thought about philosophically or otherwise.
I'm not.
When it comes to people's safety and security, I can understand their safety and security issues, and I do listen to those, and they are addressed, and I address them appropriately. And that's one thing that also needs to be noted. Because instead of addressing the abuse that I'm enduring, we're talking about other people and making it about other people and ignoring the actual crimes being committed against me.
I'm not.
For example, they threatened to kill my little sister and my niece in person. Okay? This is something that cannot be tolerated. No matter what theological, give it to God, give it to Jesus.
I am not.
Not you. This is the thing. I've been through this for 7 years, and I just met you last week. And you ain't done me no wrong, you ain't done me no harm, and you do have opinions, and you're allowed to have opinions. But that's one of the things with a victim being abused, is that your opinions don't get their story heard.
I'm not trying to suppress your story. I'm not trying to invalidate your experience. What I'm trying to bring to your awareness is that from what I hear, you're expecting somebody to perform a self-sacrificing act, to sacrifice their comfortable position within that community in order to...
No, you're assuming that. And that's the thing that I've been trying to get you to understand about listening, so that you know more about the situation. I listen so you know more, then your assumptions soon subside because they're filled with actual knowledge. And that's one of the things with having evidence of it, is that if you have the actual evidence of it, actual physical evidence, you have something you can literally show somebody. You can show somebody that it's the truth. If you have a video recording of somebody assaulting you, not only do you have proof that you were assaulted, you've got proof of the time and the date that you were assaulted, and of course, if you've got it pointed at their face, you've got a picture of their face as well, which means that you have completely tangible evidence. Now, one of the things about making assumptions over whether or not people actually care, well, there are ways of making them care, and there's laws that are in place that are supposed to make them care. Whether or not those laws are followed is based upon popularity, and one of those things with popularity is that just being popular in your family is good enough to get that started. It's a matter of somebody believing you and caring enough to turn it in with you, and most people turn it into a conversation, which there's one particular case in which is considered socially acceptable in conversations. There's one particular case where it is never appropriate to make it a conversation, and that is the case of abuse. And the reason for that is because somebody who's been abused is afraid enough already to speak, and they're going to have enough problems because of their trauma being able to speak. And as a result, it's easy to sidetrack them, especially since because of the abuse, their brain is going to be going 100 miles a minute. Now, their brain is going to do that until they're safely out of that environment, which is difficult to do because a lot of people, the more you ramble, the less they want to hear. And that is, something that every victim, whether they're male or female, has an issue with. But for a male, when we exhibit any of the same tendencies or traits of a female victim, like, for example, when a female victim has to correct somebody who's saying something that is not the case, and she has to correct them, and she's very excitable, and she says very quickly and very sharply, "That's not the situation. Please let me explain." Well, a female, she's more likely to be listened to when she does that. For a male, if he says that, especially if it's a female on the other line, he's likely to get the, "Oh, well, stop yelling at me, you're yelling at me, you're yelling at me," and it's not yelling. It's not even raising your voice at that point. I had to deal with that twice today from emergency numbers that I was told to call that pawned me off on other emergency numbers. The difference between them doing something, them having to do something, and them being allowed to blow you off because nobody cares, is whether or not somebody turns it in literally with you. Because if they turn it in with you, then it notes that somebody does care. Also, that person who goes with you has to know well enough and care well enough if you're being talked over to say, "Hey, this is not okay, officer. This person is telling you about abuse that they're enduring, and you are going off on a philosophical thing or telling him about the Jesus or asking him if he's gone to church. None of this is your business, and it has nothing to do with the assaults that he's enduring. So how about we focus on the assaults instead of you, as an officer, going ADOS on us, attention deficit squirrel, on a tangent about something completely unrelated. Also, officer, if you please, I've seen the videos of him being assaulted. So instead of inferring that he is making it up or like he deserved it, how about you listen to the words that are coming out of his mouth?" And that's one of the biggest things with people understanding when you're called quote-unquote mentally ill, which is just an accusation. It is literally not a diagnosis. You're automatically treated like you're schizophrenic or delusional. As a homeless person, you have no legal defense against this because you don't have the money for a real lawyer. You get a public pretender who's not going to try to do their job. They don't want to do any extra work or any more work than they have to. So they're going to try to push you to do things that are against your best interest and talk over your story as well. Try to deter you from trying to turn it in. Trying to insinuate that it's not going to work or insinuate that they won't allow it. And they're not allowed to do that.
It's the system protecting itself.
It's people in the system protecting themselves. The system itself is worded and wonderful laws are created that do protect us, but we are only protected if our friends or family member care that our laws or rights are being violated.
In my opinion, that's nonsensical. Because just as a system is a material thing,
So he doesn't
it's not actually a material thing. It's a vehicle. It's a vehicle to bring you from point A to point B. Just like this car.
Well, that's philosophical.
No,
it's not my literal situation. I help people to get out of abusive situations for almost 20 years.
It's a direct.
And I help them to turn in crimes for 7 years in Boulder, Colorado, as well as get unhomeless. I'm very good at it.
It's a direct comparison between this car and the system. So by you saying that this system was never designed for this, and it has implications.
No, that's you saying that it was never designed for this.
Right.
The system, as far as turning in abuse, how do you turn in abuse if you're assaulted?
Well, you report it, and that's pretty much
you report it to
the police.
All right, and if the police bond you off on mental health,
you try to go up the chain. You try to report it to the county.
That's right.
And then.
And how are you most likely to get hurt? Are you more likely to be hurt if you're alone, or are you more likely to be hurt if there's more than one of you?
That's the thing. People in that community.
See, he's not going to answer the question.
Well, you're talking about people in general. Is there an individual within that community that has
does not answer it in 2 hours' time.
It's not that they don't have balls. It's more like you're asking.
I'm asking an easy question. Like, all right, let me ask you this.
Am I willing to sacrifice
I'm not asking you to sacrifice anything.
Right. But please hear me out. Everyone is.
See, I'm the victim and he wants to be heard.
We're turning my abuse into a conversation.
No, please. Tell me about your abuse, Mr. Shaw.
Alright, so, here in Tillamook County, I suppose the most recent abuse has been the assaults by John Stevens, which was on May 2nd, and then there was an assault by John Napier on March 1st. The one by John Napier was at the Shell station at noon, and he came up while I was at the ATM machine and hit me in the back. And he was
John Napier.
He's the husband of a woman named Cynthia who works at Safeway in the deli. He also has a daughter named Mona. She works in the deli as well.
To stop to answer his questions. You notice I do stop to answer his questions.
Anyway, he hit me in the
but
back.
He never answers that one
to
question the
assault
whole
me
time.
and to kill me again, which isn't okay.
He's a local. He has roots.
Well, I'm just telling you the abuse.
Yeah.
And he just assumes John's a local. John's from California.
There's also John Stevens, and he's a local drug addict. He's also very Christian when it suits him. He has assaulted multiple people. It's recorded on my channel. He also assaulted me twice on March 2nd of this year. And there's also multiple situations since then with both Mr. Napier as well as John Stevens harassing me or threatening me, as well as John Stevens apologizing and then going back to the same thing.
And you're telling me the police, even with your evidence, the police won't arrest these people?
I'm saying that the police won't even look at the evidence. They keep calling me a liar and pretending it doesn't exist. That's why I have to have somebody go in with me who can say, hey, it does exist. You need to investigate this. He's not inventing this. He's not making it up. And it's not okay to call him a liar for something that is literally recorded.
It's the community itself.
Well, that's blaming the community. And yes, very much the community itself we can blame to some degree. But also, I can't blame the community for each and every individual decision.
It's the community protecting its members. So, like, it's not that they don't believe you, and it doesn't matter if you bring somebody in. I'm stop saying it doesn't matter. If you bring somebody in, they're just going to tell them the same thing because they're going to protect their community. Because
here we're making it about reasons why it's not going to work to turn it in instead of it being about the abuse. And that's where it gets with everybody who wants to. They want to pretend that they're realists, but it's not realism. It's negativity. There's a legal process that does work. I've seen it work. I've worked with it and made it work with other people. And the one deciding factor is, do you have somebody who cares to fight for your rights? It's not a matter of are they going to be harmed or not. If the victim is forced to do desperate things and do it the quote unquote wrong way, then yes, there are potential consequences for a lot of different people. But if those people turn it in the right way, all of these people are protected by law. There are laws that protect every person involved. And because they turned it in together, they are protected from that moment on legally. When it takes you 6 weeks to turn in a protection order, you're literally screwing over the victim by making them wait 6 weeks. And if you want to argue with them or make it a session where you're basically saying, well, it's not going to work because of this and it's not going to work because of that, and the system is broken, no, the people are broken. Yeah. The people are absolutely broken.
And the people who operate the system.
They've also been recorded. Yeah, no, the people do not operate the system. It's because they're too cowardly. They don't speak up. They make too many excuses not to even try. And that's what makes it so that it takes so much time that the predators get away to do it again and again and again. They're allowed to gaslight the victim until the victim has a mental breakdown, and then they go, oh, see, the victim is crazy. We're the victims. He's really crazy. That's how gaslighting works.
Right. And everybody can see it, John. You would need somebody from the community with a voice that can be heard within the community. Because just like you, I am a transplant. My voice can be muffled in silence. Like Sean, I was ran out of my apartment. All right, people came into my fucking apartment in Beaverton. I am very much aware about what you're talking about. You're not hearing me.
No, I am hearing you, and I'm telling you that there's ways to combat it. Right. That's why I recorded it.
Right. But coming from the same situation you are in, and being, I've been chased around. I've been chased around from state to state, Sean. And from what I've seen, from what I understand of people, is that this is not an unknown phenomenon. Everybody knows.
But we're talking in generalities now, and we're talking about your situation. And that's the thing about me being victimized and trying to tell you about my abuse.
I get what you're trying to do. Please hear me out.
But that's the thing about trying to hear you out, is that I'm not being heard. No matter what I say, there's people aren't going to this and people aren't going to that, and what you're not understanding, what you're not understanding. And that's just a whole bunch of negativity that makes the victim even afraid to speak or to say anything, because it's going to become a debate or an argument, and the abuse that I'm enduring is not a debate or an argument.
Please tell me how I can help you.
By listening.
All right. Please go on. I'm sorry.
The dynamics of small towns, those are things that can and should be brought up in court. But as far as turning this abuse in, it comes down to having a friend or family member who is willing to turn it in with you. As far as recording it so that there is evidence of it, and then vouching for the fact that that evidence does exist. I've got all sorts of legal paperwork as well as medical paperwork that shows that I'm not schizophrenic, I'm not delusional. There's also police officers who wanted to try to pretend that I am schizophrenic and am delusional. And between the combination of those two, it shows that the police made illegal and immoral inferences in order to prevent me from having my due process of law observed. They tried to infer and insinuate that I was some schizophrenic, making everything up, when literally I was trying to show them proof of the abuse that I'm enduring. Most people don't save the evidence of that and don't record it, and that's the part that leaves me a leg to stand on if a friend or family member cares is because I can prove to anybody who's willing to look. There's also the literal situations that I'm in. I'm kind of getting car sick.
Weird. And we are at the beach. This will do you good, Sean.
A lot of people, when I say that I recorded the actual abuse from the police, they start going off on philosophically about how the Tillamook police are corrupt and everybody knows it. Well, not everybody. Most people just talk about it and they say how somebody should do something about it. And I give them the opportunity to do something about it. Yes, sir. Well, people are busy saying stuff isn't going to work. We're trying to basically march off in that direction. It makes it so that the victim's story is muffled, it's diminished, and it's dismissed. And even though people say, I don't mean to dismiss you, it is very dismissive.
And he keeps doing it. And I literally have to kiss his ass for him to stop doing that.
About it because everything that they say is going to come with something that you don't mean to be dismissive. It's very dismissive. Kind of like a lot of people say that they care, but then as you're trying to tell them what's going on, they're saying they're sorry for the whole thing. Now that's a social cue. For autistic people, they're able to use the fact that the wives' tale about autistic people is that we don't understand social cues. Well, when a person is being victimized, every one of these people understands the social cue if you listen to the victim. But how much they listen to the victim depends on how much they care about the victim.
Mr. Reed has a difficulty following the story because he can't get past his opinions. His opinion that it doesn't work. The system is set up just to fuck us all, and there's no reason to even try. It's literally not going to work no matter what. And this is what this guy keeps coming back to. And we're demanding an act of self-sacrifice. No, just don't be a bitch. Jesus fucking goddamn Christ. This guy treats it like I'm asking somebody to put themselves up on a fucking cross for my goddamn sins. So I'm dealing with people who, yeah, sure, conceptually, they got this, oh, I want to help. What can I do to help? Well, you can listen, but they don't listen. They argue. How the fuck is arguing helping the victim? How the fuck is getting philosophical instead of listening to the victim? How is that helpful? How is being a Debbie Downer about literally every goddamn thing? Oh, this won't. Well, if you're going to be a bitch and never try, then you're right. It's not going to fucking work. And if you're going to be an asshole and make the victim go in by themselves, you don't fucking care. Those are two very simple goddamn concepts to understand. Meanwhile, there's 40 more minutes of that just on that recording. It was 2 hours overall, and I have that on my audio recording device too. That way everything is recorded.
We pay them to care. And that's the mandated reporter part. When they refuse to do their job as mandated reporters and you record it, they know full well that they're taking advantage of you for not having a friend or family member there to help. And that's why my recordings are important. It shows that the things that people are talking about.
I'm going to stop it here and say that after 2.5 hours, stuff that I could have showed him, and meanwhile, the reason that this right here doesn't have the whole recording on it is because I was trying to use the phone because he wanted to go to Rockaway. I tried using the phone to show him evidence. Well, we didn't get to show him anything until we got back. So literally, I just talked until I was blue in the face to a guy who literally wasn't going to hear anything that I said anyway, and was just going to make excuses for being a goddamn coward. Well, holy fuck, that doesn't help out anybody. That just wastes 2 hours of my time.
That they're treated like they're crazy for, that they're not crazy, that it is the truth, and at least one person had the balls to record it.
as far as the safety of the victims go, when you're talking about their safety. The laws to protect them are in place and are on the law books, and I've seen how to make them be observed, because I've helped victims to get those observed by police officers who otherwise would not have
You
done
can't
so.
do it by making the victim go in alone, and you can't go in by knowing jack shit. You need to know at least enough to interrupt when the police interrupt the victim and say it's the victim's turn to speak.
Public officials that have harmed me and other victims in this situation that have been arrested and incarcerated since. That includes at the Lincoln Correctional Center, 3 female guards who sexually assaulted inmates. One of those female guards I've chased and getting stabbed to death. In my car, my storage unit, and also over at that guy's garage I'm keeping my stuff in. His name is Messine. I've got evidence of all this stuff. Some of the evidence is on paper, some of it's online, some of it's on USB drives, some of it's on telephones. I've got literally thousands of restricted numbers calling me and harassing. One day alone, over 1,000 just from one guy. And this has been going on for 7 years. And it's not like it's some figment of my imagination. I've got screenshots that have verified by witnesses.
I'm not questioning your perception of reality.
I wasn't saying you were. I was just telling you my story. Okay. Now,
he's going to continue interrupting me and taking every goddamn thing personal. And I have to literally, how can you get anything heard when the person that you're talking to is literally going out of their way to take everything personal? If he came to me because he was victimized, I would listen to him. I wouldn't go out of my way to get all butthurt. If I told him that I would listen, I would actually listen. I wouldn't turn it into an argument. I would make it about the victim and their story, not about my goddamn opinions. But you get to take a look here. This guy who was going to listen to me, he's making it about his opinions and looking for everything under the sun as an excuse to either get butthurt or make an excuse not to try or why it won't work. And that's the thing. If that's your idea of helping, that isn't help, and you never intended on helping. What you want to do is you want to literally make someone feel so down and hopeless that they fucking kill themselves. And that's what this Reed dude did literally the whole time, is try to push me to kill myself by literally diminishing and demeaning me as a human being. Demeaning my experience and literally not answering any of these questions directly. These are simple fucking questions. It's not like the bullshit that lady was pulling earlier with me. Oh. God, everything gets dry and itchy. It's because I hardly ever take my clothes off. And that's because, well, it hurts to do so. So I get itchy spots. And as soon as I start scratching one, it feels so dang good. Every other itchy spot starts popping up and needing to be scratched. There's a spot on my shoulder here that I can't quite reach. Now, of course, Reed doesn't mean anything by this. He doesn't see that he's doing anything wrong by this. But this right here, this is what literally everyone does. They demean us and diminish and disrespect us. Our time isn't worth shit to them, but every bit of their time is worth a whole bunch. They want a gold brick for every minute that they spend listening to you. They want to treat you completely like crap and say, well, you just need to man up. A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. You just need to love yourself. These are not solutions for ending abuse. You also get to hear how it's literally nobody's job. Northwest Senior and Disability Services has absolutely nobody who does absolutely anything. They're useless as tits on a board. They don't help me to stop the abuse that prevents me from getting any of this shit done, but they still expect me to get this shit done. Well, what the fuck for? I shouldn't even be in fucking Oregon. I should have never had to leave fucking Colorado, you pieces of shit. But this guy right here, he's all up in his own fields.
Cops are basically trying to insinuate that I'm talking about how dragons and lizards and fairies and shit did this to me. Trying to insinuate, first of all, that I had harmed Natalie, and then later on they pretended that Natalie was a delusion who never existed.
And mind you, this is the part where he's finally starting to listen. I mean, he's let me talk for a while. He hasn't actually heard anything I'm saying. What he wants to do is have argument time and philosophy time and theology time, and we don't get to focus on my abuse because we have to continue to stop focusing on the fact that he's not focusing on the abuse. He's focusing literally on being as negative, no matter what, as negative as he fucking can, and going out of his way to treat me like I am a selfish person asking for somebody to crucify them, for Christ's sake. I'm not asking for a single person to crucify themselves for me. That's not what I'm asking. Not even in the least bit.
Not to show you at least enough evidence for you to understand she's goddamn it. Yep. I've also got the conversation between her and I to show that we were friends. I've also got the recordings and a lot of the stuff from other people that tried harming me and actually succeeded by claiming that me and Natalie weren't friends. You see how difficult it is to get me over that log, and all you had to do is step over it. Damn. A lot of driftwood. Yeah,
He's just going to keep hitting stuff.
I guess I could go around this way. Anyway, I've tried going to the cops about the first situations of abuse when I got here, and that includes assaults against me and my person, which as a disabled person, any crime that's committed against me is advanced. That means if you commit a misdemeanor against me knowingly, willingly, and intelligently, and it results in harm against me, you can and should, according to the law, be charged with a felony. Also, a mandated reporter has to turn in credible. That's the important part there, credible. That's why you need another person. That's the most important part is the word credible. With a witness, you're credible. That's why if 5 people beat the fuck out of you and say you started it, even if you've got the recordings, those 5 people said that you started it, the cops come and arrest you, they put you in jail, call you violent, you recorded it on your phone's still at home. The public pretender isn't going to try looking at it. They just want to look at the evidence that the police have. And you're too broke to hire a real attorney, so you have to deal with a public pretender who refuses to do his job because he gets paid either way. Most people get pissed off at the system and end up going out and taking that out on a homeless person. A lot of people in houses and homeless people will victimize homeless people because who cares? If you beat the shit out of me, the cops would not come after you. If I defended myself against you, they would come after me. The problem with bias is that when you don't record it, you can't show it. That's why I record everything. A lot of people want to have philosophical conversations about things that are set in stone. The recordings of people punching me in the face are actually people punching me in the face. There's also the fact that I do have some connections, and all of those connections want the same thing. They want witnesses to verify and help me to turn it in. That includes Will Chappell, the newspaper here, as well as somebody with the Oregonian, as well as people in Colorado, several newspapers there, including the Boulder Weekly and Colorado Daily. There's also Westward that's interested. There's also a lot of the predators that I tried turning in ended up on national news. Stormy was right, there is black sand here. Anyway, the thing with the stuff on national news, Samuel Leon Lawrence IV and Zade Atkinson were both assaulted by one of the officers that assaulted me. They were both on national news because it was pegged as a racist thing against them because they were black. What they don't know is Waylon Molokai is darker than you are. And you're darker than both Zade Atkinson and Samuel Leon Lawrence IV. Waylon Molokai assaulted a grand total of at least 8 homeless people in 2018, which I was the first. He was let go of 8. 7 of them recorded on camera, including mine. They were able to get the body cameras and all of the other ones, but they refused to allow the body cameras for mine. Nobody ever helped me to get them, and the public pretenders refused to even try. Now, because I didn't kill Natalie Bollinger, none of the big-name lawyers that would have wanted to touch my case wanted to. As a result, I had to do a bunch of things that it was irresponsible to make me do alone, when any predator can just say he's mentally ill and pretend it didn't happen.
Now, at this point, I'm stuck in what's called the freeze loop. And the reason for it is because, well, he wanted to literally antagonize everything that I say. And I do mean antagonize. He wanted to be negative. No matter what I said, he's too busy trying to be as negative as possible to even hear what I'm saying. So at this point, as far as telling my story, I can't even at that point, can I? It's stuck on repeat. And that isn't because I wasn't trying to tell him about the abuse. I started off trying to tell him about the abuse. But he just wanted to be the Debbie Downer type. And no matter what I said, he took it as a personal insult. So there was no reason to speak. Now, that went on for probably 20 to 25 minutes. At least before this video actually got started. And I started this video because the dude just wouldn't shut up. Wouldn't stop talking about, well, literally making it about anyone else. Any excuse that he can find to change the subject. Not to change the subject from the abuse necessarily, but change the subject to what he wants to talk about. He wants to talk about philosophy. He wants to talk about generalities. He wants to talk about that. So with all of his interrupting, it finally gets to the point where I can't do anything except be afraid to speak. Because here's the thing. We don't need you to talk over us. Someone calling himself Sunglow typed hello. Sorry about the stuff in the background.
With the officers, there's repeated instances where I was abused and assaulted by people like Robert Cooper and a woman named Molly. And even though the police knew who these people were, they wouldn't do anything about it. They wouldn't investigate, they wouldn't write it down. I was also assaulted at the hospital here on January 28th last year by Dr. Stephanitis. I had to try to turn it into the police. The officer that was supposed to investigate it was Trent Olson, but the laws regarding and concerning disabled adults were not followed, because there should have been someone from the Protective Services / APS Social Services to be there with the officer to observe my rights and make sure that I wasn't railroaded or talked over.
It's his dog's name.
I also needed a friend or family member there to guarantee that as well. But a friend or family member has to be willing to fight for your rights, and the more the merrier. One person alone being abused, nobody's going to give a shit. The one thing in all of my studies that has been shown to work every time is people working together. You can't tell the victim to go in alone, especially if it's a homeless man. Nobody's going to listen. The bias against men and the fact that most of these help services are run by women means that we're the most likely candidates for being triaged out. And you seem highly intelligent, so you probably know what triage is.
You see how difficult it is to stay focused.
Yes, sir. So the problem is that it's not something that I can just move on from. I've moved over 50 times since Natalie's death because of the stuff that's all over the news. Like I showed you the stuff that was on YouTube, but there's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot on YouTube. I only showed him a couple
told you about. Now they weren't through all of this,
and you
but I
didn't
haven't
watch him
had
like you should
somebody
exist.
in person to help me turn it in. A lot of people have said that they would, but none of them follow through. They promise that they will, and they drag it out, and then after 6 or 7 months, then they start.
Now, might I add, he wanted to go to Rockaway. That was his idea of being helpful, was that we were going to go to Rockaway to the beach, and that would be good for me. So he's made a bunch of assumptions that were wrong and already decided what's best for me. That's not exactly useful. That's making a bunch of assumptions in the wrong direction. That doesn't help the victim. And when you make the victim argue with you, that shows you don't care. It's more important for you to feel right than it is for you to hear the victim. You get to hear how many people say it's my turn to talk, or you need to let me speak, or you need to stop talking over me. Well, you're not the victim. No, I don't need to stop talking over you. I was talking and you interrupted, not the other way around. You do not get to play victim when you interrupt me. You don't get to pretend like it's your turn to speak, because when it comes to social cues, when a victim is trying to speak, here's the social cue. Shut the fuck up. That is the one time that it is never okay to make it a conversation. What you do is you make it 100 times more difficult for the victim to explain what's going on, like you're seeing here. Or hearing, I should say.
Are doing the Debbie Downer thing. Some of them only after a few days. Oh, well, it'll never work. Oh, well, you're hopeless. The cops will never listen. I'm like,
You're asking for a selfless act.
I'm not.
It's not a selfless act.
This affects all of us, and that's the great thing about democracy.
And that's the thing that you got to hear earlier, is that it all comes down to, he's already set it in stone that I'm asking for a selfless act, blah, 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 blah. Like, this is what it comes down to, is philosophical goddamn bullshit. No wonder this guy's out here, but he's got a vehicle, and he's got people here that he knows. He also wants to talk about how he's in the same situation as me, because he had to deal with this something or other in Beaverton. No, not the same. He does say at one point it's not exactly the same, and that's kind of sort of a recognition, but the thing is, his situation is not mine, and if he asked for my help with his situation, I'd be willing to look at the evidence, I'd be willing to listen to the evidence, and no, it is not a selfless act to go in with another victim so they can safely turn it in. That's just basic decency and not being a piece of shit. Especially if you're a witness. Especially if you want to tell them that you care. If you care, but you're just going to go off on goddamn government conspiracies, you don't care about anything but goddamn government conspiracies. How the hell is that going to help a victim? You might as well be going off about aliens. I'm not talking about conspiracies with aliens. I'm talking about legal conspiracy. And that's easy to prove when you have the evidence. None of this should have been a part of any state jurisdiction, because the abuse against me was federal within the first 24 hours. That's right, I was getting harassed across multiple states. That's federal. The fact that multiple people were involved makes it organized crime. So, yeah, we can arrest a bunch of officers as organized criminals and the Bollingers as organized criminals. It's more likely I'm going to be stuck moving my stuff from one place to another to live in the world's shittiest conditions and being yelled at by alcoholics or drug addicts, being beaten on by drug addicts and alcoholics, being treated like I'm a drug addict or alcoholic, being treated like I must be a rapist or a pedophile, all because why? Because people want to argue. Literally, this guy has no argument. What puts people at risk is doing it stupidly. You go in uneducated, not knowing what's going on, and not willing to speak. That doesn't help the victim in the least bit.
But the horrible thing about democracy is sometimes it means all the idiots are on the same side. When it comes to giving information freely, that's what democracy is supposed to be about, an educated public making educated decisions. And that's why we have laws to protect that and to protect the integrity of it. And if people care about the integrity of it, then they can do something about it. If somebody beats on your son at the Special Olympics, a whole shit ton of people are going to fucking care about it. If you beat the shit out of your disabled son in your own household and you keep him locked up until the bruises go away and you call him mentally ill, nobody gives a fuck. The thing is getting that person to realize that you're telling the truth and understands that it does make a difference. I'll be abused for the rest of my life until people recognize that I'm being abused. As far as documenting it, it's not a matter of me documenting it because I do. It's a matter of getting the police and these other services to document it instead of trying to have me rubber stamp, which they've tried. The great thing about them trying to rubber stamp me is that it leaves a paper trail of the crimes they've committed. When they commit crimes like that and leave a paper trail, it's easy to lock them up for it. And we've seen on the news many, many, many times, especially in the last 3 years, COVID brought down an epidemic of judges, lawyers, public protectors, all getting locked up. All for the things that I've been talking about. Now, I didn't have nothing to do with most of them getting locked up. This is a nationwide epidemic. Obviously, I haven't been to every courtroom in America. But the ones that I do have, I've literally recorded the evidence that has been shown to get convictions. I've also got the paperwork that I'm supposed to have a friend or family member with me to turn stuff in and for any conversations with the police. And that is for my safety because they have a habit of taking advantage of disabled people. Let me grab my leg. Oh my God!
It must have been when we got
That
to
was
the
a bit
beach.
fast. I'm sorry. I should have showed you how instead of.
Oh, that's when we
Oh
were
my
coming
God.
up from the beach.
Oh, I'm definitely not dead. Oh my God. Oh my God. I mean, you did that on purpose, and I'm gonna hate you for all eternity. And I'm full of shit on that part. I don't have this. Oh my God.
Instead of lifting, he kind of jerked me up, and it.
Oh, sure. That was from trying to get up that thing there. It ain't no big. I'm already. See, the thing is, I have my muscles. They get exhausted real quick and easy, and then they stay that way. And basically, it's like working a full 16-hour days of being a hod carrier or having to move the heavy boxes or, things like that. That's how I start the day, is feeling like that. And everything that I have to do ended up taking a lot of energy out of me, like a lot more than it should. Come here. Do this. Up. Up. Boy, watch yourself. Those things, these people who promise to help, they make big mistakes, and as a result, people did threaten to kill them and their families. And I did record them telling me about it and why those threats happened and who made them. But they didn't help me to turn it in. They just told me about them.
That's the thing, is that people are expecting selfless acts out of me. They get plenty enough selfless acts.
They told me they tried to turn it in, but they didn't follow the simplest instruction with the victim. Not for them, but with them. You may have to speak for them if you make a call with them and they're getting talked over. You might have to speak up and tell an officer, hey, you need to listen, he's telling you something important. And what you're saying got nothing to do with the situation. They know how to manipulate, and that's where a friend or family member comes in, because certain things everybody knows are wrong, everybody knows that they're illegal, and everybody knows that looking the other way is against the law. A lot of people will argue their ignorance of the laws, and also a lot of people tend to assume that because most of these people out here have gone in by themselves when they get harmed. They've been blown off, same as me and same as a lot of other people. And then they assume because they got blown off, because they went in by themselves, that no matter what, they're going to get blown off. And then they're stuck in that mentality. And that's what keeps them out here on the streets, that they're not able to get that help because they're not working together with the other people on the streets who aren't working together with anybody for the same reason. Our predators
Big
work together, they
catch-22.
automatically win, unless we work together. Then we can show the truth. If it's just their word versus yours, then they won't allow any evidence in court. If it's contested, they have to show it in court. Sorry for talking so much. Anyway, with the assaults, pretty much everybody tells me it's not going to work because the cops are corrupt in Tillamook. So I've got hours of footage of, well, probably hundreds of hours of footage of people telling me how corrupt Tillamook is, which means I have.
So I'm telling them about the evidence that I have. We could have, instead of spending 2 hours, by the way, I was car sick this whole time. Instead of spending 2 hours on this road trip and me trying to tell him about the evidence, I could have been showing him. I mean, literally, he picked me up a block from the library and he was just going to go get some food from the food bank. And then he was going to help me. Well, then he decided not to go to the food bank. And then he decided to go to Rockaway. And I asked him, if we go to Rockaway, are you going to listen? And for about, 20 minutes, it was him talking pretty much the whole time about his philosophical stuff. By the time this recording was started, I'd heard so much of that, I was having a panic attack over him literally talking about nothing useful. Let's just say that. He's not a bad person out to get me, obviously. He's not out to destroy my life. But what he is out to do is to diminish me as a person and try to make me feel like there is no hope. That's all this man has done, is try to destroy my hope, actively try to destroy all hope. Just like all of you do when you do the same things. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Hey, there is a way to make the law work. And that way is to go in with a friend or family member who is informed, but who's going to become informed when they're too busy telling their opinions, too busy telling you that literally nothing is going to work and not to try, just take the abuse. Oh, you're asking for a selfless act. No, what that piece of shit was doing at that point was being a piece of shit, trying to make me feel like I'm a selfish person for needing help. That is not okay. That is victim shaming and victim blaming too. And he doesn't care how shitty he is making me feel. He's going out of his way to do that, knowing that it's a shitty thing to do. So by the time I was able to start this recording, I dealt with probably at least 20 minutes worth of it. Enough to drive a person nuts. So we started this recording. We're 37 minutes into this recording out of an hour and 3 minutes total. And of course, at the end, he says he can't help. He's not the guy because he's got his own issues and so on and so forth. You know, the same stuff that everybody out on the street says. I can't help you because I got my own problems. Well, yeah, and then you're going to be stuck with your problems because you're going in alone. And then you're going to come out here and you're going to bitch at me that nothing worked. Of course, nothing worked. You went in alone. How about instead of bitching at me, you asked me to go in with you? How about you try that? How about you try informing me of the situation? And we'll go in together and I will be informed. And when they try to speak over you and say something's not important, well, I've got a whole bunch of really, really useful stuff in here. Matter of fact, let's grab one of them. This one's called Lincoln on Race and Slavery. This one's the legal rights of the elderly. And this one right here, American constitutional law. It's a big book. 12-36. Constitutionally permissible prior restraints. The Supreme Court has spoken of constitutionally permissible prior restraints as exceptional cases. This impression has been reinforced by the court's decision refusing to perceive threats to 15 Walker 388 U.S. AT 318. That the validity of an order may be challenged in a contempt proceeding if there was no opportunity for effective review of the order prior to its violation is clear from the United States versus Ryan 402 U.S. 503 1971, since an order denying a motion to quash a grand jury subpoena ducis tectum is not appealable. It may be disobeyed, and the validity of the order raised on appeal from the contempt proceedings. See generally right. 3. Federal practice and procedure. Criminal S. 702, 1982. But the mere opportunity for review is not alone decisive. Where time does not allow an adequate remedy, the order may be violated without losing the constitutional defense. See E.G. Thomas versus Collins, 323 U.S. 516, 1945. Reversing contempt conviction of union organizer served 6 hours before his scheduled speech with a temporary restraining order which enjoined him from soliciting union members without first obtaining an organizer's card as required by Texas statute. Although defendant had disobeyed the order, the court heard and sustained his contention that the order and the statute were unconstitutional prior restraints. That's what I get to deal with. With Natalie Bollinger, I got to deal with that. With Rochelle Shelley Campbell, with Danica Garner, and of course, who could forget Leslie Snell? You're damn right I speak up. (16) C. Walker 388 U.S. AT 315. United States versus Dickinson 465 F 2D 496 509-10. 5th Circuit 1972. See also in the Providence Journal CO 809 F period 2D 63. 1st Circuit 1986. Reversing criminal contempt sanction applied to newspaper that published in violation of a temporary restraining order private materials obtained from illegal FBI surveillance program. Illegal. You notice I've got a leg to stand on at this point. Now, obviously, mine wasn't an illegal FBI surveillance program, although you can hear many people who have been having issues with being in contact with me saying that they think the FBI or the CIA or the local police are fucking with it. I don't know, maybe they are, but it all sounds like a bunch of crazy hoopla tinfoil hat stuff to me. It says the First Circuit limited its holding to transparently void orders and maintained that the collateral bar rule still applied to arguably proper orders ID AT 68, while admitting that the dividing line between the two is not always distinct ID AT 69. The court's reasoning, however, seemed to imply that all prior restraints upon the right of the press to communicate news that involved pure speech as opposed to conduct would be transparently invalid. Well, they didn't apply that, did they? Because they faced a presumption of unconstitutionality that was virtually insurmountable, and that's what I'm having to deal with. Presumption of unconstitutionality. No, there is more than just the presumption of it. It is factual in evidence. It also says that was virtually insurmountable, and it is literally insurmountable, given my current situation. ID, despite its protestations to the contrary, the Court of Appeals may thus have erected in effect a categorical prohibition on prior press restraints. Now, you might say I'm taking that out of context, but there's the context in which it was written and the reasons for which it was written, and then there is the way that it is used. And one of the things with Mr. Reed is that he wants to argue the way that it is used, and because of the way that it is used, there's nothing we can do. We are property of the masters, in a sense. Sunglow typed, "Are you okay? You should leave your town. Leave that town. I would pack my stuff and leave that abusive small town." Ma'am, my name is Sean David Schwartz, and I'd like you to look up the name Natalie Bollinger. There's a reason that I'm harmed everywhere that I go. It's because of slander that is very popular on the internet. Matter of fact, I'm going to click here something for you to look at so that you can look her up for yourself. Yes, I'm typing one-fingered. All right, so here's, let's see. Copy link address. This is called The Disturbing Case of Natalie Bollinger. It's from a month ago. Natalie Bollinger was killed in 2017 in December. I was painted as a horrible monster for speaking up about her abuse and mine. How dare I speak up about her abuse? People tell me what a horrible thing it is for me to tell on Natalie Bollinger's abusers. Well, excuse me, says I, but they were abusing me too. It is my right. Communication and expression. I read from page 1044 and 1045, I believe. There's a lot in here. It's a big book. Now let's press play on this Debbie Downer feller. And every time I say that, he's going to take it as a personal insult. It's not. When you're doing that over and over and over again, it makes the victim want to kill themselves. And that is not a joke. That is literally how you push a victim to kill themselves. And this is why mandated reporters are trained specifically not to do these things. While you may get away with being a douchebag like that, mandated reporters go to jail for that. They have to face fines for that. My vehicle is broken. I'm harmed everywhere I go because those Natalie Bollinger sites don't tell the truth. And my only chance of getting this hell to stop is to get back the resources that were stolen from me, ripped off from me. When I said that people have taken advantage of me this entire time, I'm not kidding. People who understand that I have physical disabilities that make it difficult for me to even walk down and get myself something to eat, telling me that they're helping me just to help me out of the kindness of their heart, and then they're going to expect me to go and run 4 or 5 errands a day for them. And I can't do it. And I try to explain to them it's disabilities that I have that make it impossible to do. And that they're asking me to do things that I can't even do for myself, but I'm expected to. And then, of course, oh, well, you're getting exercise. No, I'm forced marching on critical injuries. That is not okay. Is whatever you are craving worth that much physical pain for me? Is that what it's worth to you? Every step hurts. If I walk to the store, it's because I am that hungry. And I understand that we got lots of canned food. I have canned food. I eat canned food. A lot of times, I just need to leave so that I'm away from the yelling and the screaming. That's in a lot of environments. It's not that people are hateful specifically towards me. It's that there's a lot of anger from a lot of people, and I end up either taking the brunt of it or having to go sit quietly in the corner and try to ignore it. Or even worse, the people who are being predatory in a particular environment expect me to be their therapist or their punching bag. Like, hey, here's $5, go get yourself something to eat and come back. And I come back to what? Bullying, harassment, being screamed at and yelled at over what other people did. Having it demanded of me that I go spend more time doing stuff that other people want. And then I'm overwhelmed with doing all this stuff. I'm overwhelmed with the expectations that people have of me in order to allow me some peace. And even then, I don't get any peace. When I'm in somebody else's environment, if they want to listen to their radio as loud as they want, they will. If I ask them if they can tune it down for a little bit so that I can make some important calls, once in a great while they'll tone it down, but usually it's, if you got to do that, go make your calls somewhere else. Or what was the one that Dallas said? This is my house, and if I want to listen to music, and this is something I've heard here too, in multiple places, this is pretty common. With Dallas Richmond, he's one of those people who didn't really want anybody to think of him as less manly. And of course, if you are victimized by your wife in Chapel, Nebraska, nobody's going to let you hear the end of it. So if you're a man out there who's being abused, I understand why you don't speak up. It's not just domestic relationships that happens in, though. Here's how it works with abuse. You have a roof over your head, and your abuser will remind you of that often. They'll yell at you and scream at you, possibly even hit you or kick you, throw things at you, or even hit you with objects. And then they'll scream at you, "Get the fuck out of my house, I hope you freeze." The most violent beatings that I've seen, as far as domestic violence goes, comes when one person tells the other person that their alcohol is the issue, or that their drugs are the issue. It usually sends the other person into a rage that they can't come down from. Shannon Alvarado is a fine example of that. She's been heated for years because of her alcoholism and how she treated people there. How she had unreasonable expectations of everyone in the house. How she got some paranoid thought in her head that she was going to hold on it and victimize you for it for weeks on end, like she did with Rick McCormick. He was an Uber driver, and for 15 minutes he was parked where he had to go pick somebody up. 15 minutes he had to wait on somebody. And yes, that does happen as an Uber driver. So for 2 weeks I got to hear her yelling at him every time she got a little bit of liquor. Now mind you, when she got to drinking, one of two things would happen. Either Rick McCormick would stay sober and she would start fights with him all night and scream and shout, or he'd drink with her and they'd have sex. that was always strange to me. Like, literally, Rick McCormick would have sex with her literally right after she got done yelling at him for an hour that he's cheating on her. And she kicked him out of the house 5 or 6 times and he just refused to leave. And then they'd have sex. And then sometimes she'd go right back to accusing him of cheating. Oh my God. There is no way to get away from this. And I'd invested all that money to go to California. Because Shannon Alvarado, despite the fact that she was aloof and absent-minded, and all she wanted to talk about was her conspiracy theories, and like this guy, nothing's ever going to work. Turning it in together is never going to work. It's literally the only thing that works. Turning it in together with a friend or family member. That's what works. If you want to call yourself a friend or family member and you're not listening to my story with the intent of understanding, you're not a friend or family member, and you're showing that you're not. You're a relative or an acquaintance. Now, one of the most volatile situations I was in was Shannon Alvarado's, but there was also Brett Roloff's. Shannon Alvarado lives in Sherman Oaks, California. Nice area. When mandated reporters don't do their jobs for disabled people, that leaves disabled people dependent on, well, let's put it this way. If our family or friends were worth a shit, we'd have never needed to go to these services at all. We'd have been kept safe, and we'd have gotten the help that we needed to be prepared for the world, instead of being victimized for being different, being shunned by our own families for being different. And how dare we speak up about our abuse? You get to hear all these people saying, oh, well, it's your fault that you're being abused because you're speaking up. No, it's not my fault that I'm being abused. That's why I'm speaking up. I'm going to have to go for a walk here to, it scares me when people do that. It scares me. It shuts me down. It makes it difficult for me to think, difficult for me to speak. Before I was here, I was in the Dalles, Oregon, where I took the same abuse. Before I was in the Dalles, Oregon, I was in Hood River, Oregon, where I took the same abuse. In all of these situations, police started off the slander. They do that to every homeless person who tries to turn something in. They tell anybody who's a witness, oh, he's just crazy, oh, he's doing drugs, oh, he's schizophrenic, he's mentally ill, he's friends with that crazy guy, so on and so forth. They almost got me assaulted in Hood River my second week there. And after almost getting me assaulted by a guy named James Murphy stalked me here to Tillamook, Oregon. None of these places that we're supposed to go to as disabled and at-risk adults, none of them are going to do their jobs if we go in alone.
Which means I have hundreds of hours of footage I can turn into the news agencies that actually are interested.
But it's not just, it's everywhere. It's every city.
So he's going to make a generalized statement, and he's literally using it as an excuse. Using it to try to deter me, to make me feel like less of a person, like it is hopeless to try. And when you treat the victim like it is hopeless to try, you are victimizing the victim, especially if you say that you're their friend, especially if you claim that they're family. Of course, I get angry that people keep on doing this instead of listening.
That's what I'm pointing out. That's what I'm showing. Because that is important. That's the part that's against the law.
Tell me which one on this relationship.
What I want is to
get him to listen. There's actual evidence. Listen, not to have an argument, not to make it a political discussion or a religious discussion, but to understand the abuse I'm enduring and that it does need to be turned in. All these people are disheartened by the system. They think it absolutely won't work no matter what because they had to go in alone. When Ashley was complaining that they wouldn't do anything about the abuse against her, she also admitted that she had to go in alone. Same thing with Stephanie. Same thing with David. Same thing with Jennifer. And they're all recorded on my channel saying those things. As far as packing my stuff and leaving, I can't physically carry it. And my car no longer works, and I don't have the money to make my vehicle work. I don't have the money to take care of myself, and when I move to the next place, I'll be starting over with absolutely nothing. And even worse, that nothing includes not having the ability to show any of the crimes that are committed against me. And when you think that moving to a different place is a fix, no, it's not. What that does is it separates us from any sort of social network that we might have. It separates us also from jurisdiction. Many of my predators tried to insinuate and bully me into moving to another jurisdiction. I also wanted to say, oh, well, you can turn it in from any jurisdiction. And then when I'd get to the next jurisdiction, the previous jurisdiction would say that they don't have to investigate it because I'm not in that jurisdiction. Oh, you just need to let it go because they lied to you and coerced you into doing something that was against your best interest. And the fact is, these people know that it's against your best interest. Yes, cops know what they're doing when they push you and bully you to do that. Yes, these mental health places know what they're doing when they bully you into doing those things. This is why you should be protected from having to turn in your abusers to your abusers. How many of you women would be afraid if you were told that you had to turn in your rapist to himself? If you were raped by Officer Lynn Lothman and you were told that you have to turn in Lynn Lothman to Lynn Lothman, how happy would you be about that? Now, if Lynn Lothman showed up and bullied you for making the 911 call about him raping you, how happy would you be about that? The reason I'm using rape is because it's literally the only crime that you care about, women. Because all of the other crimes are committed more against men. And the majority of the time, women are far more likely to be the physical abuser. When you say that a woman is less likely to do severe physical harm to her husband when she beats on him as an excuse for her to beat on him, you need to keep in mind that on average, she's going to hit him 30 times before he ever defends himself. When you say it's never okay to hit a woman, really? Let's say your wife is in the bathroom doing something that women are far more likely to do than men. You go to the bathroom, you hear some splashing, and you notice that your wife is holding your child under the water by its throat. I don't know if you have a son or a daughter, so I'm saying it not to say the children are its, but because I don't know what kind of a child you have. Now, if you go in there and your wife is doing this, and it is very common for women to do this, to try to choke their children to death, to drown them in the bathtub or in a creek. Now you start yelling at your wife. She's not responsive. Now, of course, you have a penis and she has a vagina, so if you touch her, you're a wife beater. So do you let your wife drown your child, or do you become a wife beater? Keep in mind, if you so much as touch her, she gets to bring that you are a violent, wife-beating piece of shit. So what you've got to decide at that point is, what is my child's life worth? And every father knows that one. It's never okay to hit a woman. It's never okay to lay your hands on a woman. With all due respect, I live in the real world, okay? I don't live in the world of Disney princesses. I live in the world of wannabe Disney princesses. Women who want it all but don't want to contribute. Women who want to take from a man until he's got nothing left and then throw him away like he's trash because she already ripped him off for everything he's got. It's right here. We got a whole another 30 minutes or so to go on it. Mostly me saying the same things because at this point I'm already in a state of crisis and a state of fear of saying anything, because anything that I say, he's got some excuse, some outlandish bullshit of why not to even make a fucking effort. Don't say that you want to help somebody if you're not going to make an effort to do the one thing that works. Get familiar with the situation, turn it in with the victim. And there are many ways that you're allowed to turn it in. But if you go in alone, well, the police will tell you that the only way to turn it in is to tell them about it. And they'll decide if it's illegal. But you keep pushing because you're told that you have to make a report. That's not making a report. You're told that the police didn't have anything investigated and they didn't turn anything into the DA because you didn't make a written report. So you make a written report, but they won't let you turn in the written report because it's not on their official police parchment. So then they give you a pad of paper. 6 months after that is when they gave me one here and said, oh, well, here's a piece of paper, write it down, then you can make a written statement. Well, thank you, but you guys have already committed enough crimes that obviously when I try to turn this in, you're going to tell me I have to do it across the internet, which, by the way, they did. I went in to try to talk to the officers, and no, I didn't go down to the police station. By the way, not without another human being there with me. I know better. These officers already know that I'm trying to turn them in for crimes that they committed. They don't have any reason to investigate any crimes against me because it's against their best interest, and that's not the best interest of the people. These officers don't want to go to jail and or prison, and they certainly don't want to lose their jobs and their wages. These officers, every single one of them, makes over 10 times what I do every year. No wonder they have this delusion that it's so goddamn easy. They've got money to spare. They've got money to burn. And a lot of it. Meanwhile, I have to spend all of my money to try to do the police officer's job, to try to do the judge's job and the public pretender's job, to do the investigator's job. Well, they all play fucking head games. I got a lot more recordings to bring up too. See, I never get to sit down and organize it because it always turns into somebody screaming, some rock being thrown through something, somebody hitting me, threatening to kill my friends or my family, harassing me on fake accounts. You goddamn right I speak up. Anyway, I do like this Reese feller. I don't have any hatred for him, but, well, he's already decided that hopelessness and trying to sow the seeds of hopelessness will magically fix shit. And all that's going to do is reap the very same thing that he sowed. Now, I read your Bible. I've read the Quran. I get to hear how people use pretty memes in there as quick fixes for real life situations. Well, that doesn't work. It doesn't work. Telling somebody they need to get an attorney, Jesus Christ, you think I'm fucking retarded? You think in all this time I couldn't figure out I need an attorney? Yes, I'm aware. I need a friend or family member who cares that I'm being abused before any of that can happen. I need a friend or family member to care that I'm abused before I can go to the police. I need a friend or family member who cares that I'm being abused before I can go and actually set up appointments to go to a fucking hospital. Because if I don't have a friend or family member, it's going to be assumed that because I'm homeless, I'm a junkie, that because I'm homeless, I just want to go running around breaking the law. No. Anyway, I'm going to end this video because I got some stuff we got to run and go do. Hopefully I can miss the next bout of slamming and slapping and beating and screaming about things if I'm not here. Good to be rid of you. Thank you for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper. And your sister's too, and no victim left behind. And I'm sorry I didn't finish the video for you. Reed is not a bad guy. He's just, well, negative. All these people who wanted to be angry at me for being negative, they were all actually negative. Well, I'm trying to have hope. I'm trying to believe that the one thing that works, the one thing that a person who actually cares would do, I keep hoping someone will actually care to do those things, instead of trying to treat me like I'm selfish for having no friends or family. I was good to people. They were nice to me. Some of them. But there's a difference between good and nice, isn't there? How do we end these videos? Good to be rid of you. Thank you for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper and your sister's keeper too, and no victim left behind.